We are certainly enjoying the discussion of this House. But at this point in time, our special order of business is to bring up Dr. Robert Juhasz. And let me make a few points of introduction to Dr. Juhasz as we are ready for his talk. I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker today. Dr. Robert Juhasz is definitely well-known, widely respected, and loved. He initiated his education with a Bachelor of Science from John Carroll University and holds a Doctor of Humane Letters there, where he also served on the Pre-Health Professions Advisory Board. Dr. Juhasz received his Doctor of Osteopathic degree from Kansas City University College of Osteopathic Medicine, class of 1981, along with other distinguished AOA past presidents, Karen Nichols, DO, and Bill Mayo, DO, and he now sits as Vice Chair of the Kansas City University Board of Trustees. Bob did an osteopathic rotating internship and internal medicine residency at Brentwood, now Cleveland Clinic South Point Hospital, where he also had the privilege of serving as president from 2013 to 2017. Dr. Juhasz has served as internal medicine residency program director and chair of the Department of Internal Medicine at Richmond Heights General Hospital. He's been in private practice in internal medicine from 1986 to 1998 and served as a member of the staff of Cleveland Clinic from 1998 to 2020. Now emeritus staff at Cleveland, Dr. J continues to serve precepting internal medicine residents 1 day a week. He's a clinical professor of medicine at Ohio University Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine, and having served this organization now in his 30th year as a delegate or an alternate to the AOA House of Delegates, and as the 118th president of the AOA, Dr. Juhasz is currently a member of the AOA's Presidential Advisory Committee, a member of the Blue Ribbon Commission for the Advancement of Osteopathic Medical Education. Dr. Juhasz has also been a serving member of the ACGME Board of Directors from 2017 to present, and he serves as a chair of the ACGME Awards Committee on several other committees and task forces. Dr. J is a Master Fellow of the American College of Osteopathic Internists, a Fellow of the American College of Physicians, and an Honorary Fellow of the American College of Osteopathic Surgeons. The theme for his life has been being blessed on a journey of first generation, first college graduate, first physician in his family, and learning early from our osteopathic mentors to give back to those institutions which have made it possible for us to succeed and be grateful for the opportunity to serve. Someone who is guided by his Lord, Jesus Christ, and is a committed husband to Donna Juhasz, dad to 4 children, and papa to 6 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Robert Juhasz.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, Ray. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present this year's Andrew Taylor Still Memorial Lecture. I'd like to thank President Jaimo, President-elect Gelb, members of the AOA Board of Trustees, and this House of Delegates for the honor of being able to remember the founder of our osteopathic profession, Andrew Taylor Still, MD, DO, today on this 16th day of July 2022. I'd also like to thank my mentors, especially our AOA past presidents, my colleagues at the Ohio Osteopathic Association, the Cleveland Academy of Osteopathic Medicine, the American College of Osteopathic Internists, the Cleveland Clinic, Kansas City University, Ohio University Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine, and the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education. My comments today are my own and not related to my participation on the ACGME or KCU governing boards or as a retired member of the Cleveland Clinic staff. I also want to thank Dr. Clower and the AOA staff for their work making our House of Delegates run so well, particularly when we have not been together for the last couple of years. So, and I thank them for their help in preparing this presentation for today. I also want to thank my wife Donna and our family for supporting me in my dedication to the osteopathic profession and my practice. As some of you may know, Dr. Andrew Taylor Still was born near Jonesville, Virginia, to Abram and Martha Still on August 6, 1828, in a one-room log cabin on 500 acres of farmland in the Cumberland Mountains. A few years back, after having had the privilege of giving the commencement address at the Lincoln Memorial University DeBusk College of Osteopathic Medicine in Harrogate, Tennessee, Donna and I decided to take the scenic route back to Ohio. I found my sensor for my tires was going low on one of my tires, and I pulled off into a gas station. And so after taking care of pulling out the compressor and fixing the tire, I happened to look up, and this is what I saw. Who would have known that I would have AT Still looking over me while I was fixing my tires? So, so I just hope he's looking over me today as well. The Still family had a simple but hard life. Abram Still was a Methodist minister and an ardent, committed abolitionist. He spent much of his time as a circuit rider, a preacher that would carry out the Methodist faith to areas throughout the mountains of Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. In those days, ministers often were involved in caring not only for a person's spiritual health, but also for their physical health, as they would bring some of the only medical care that was available to people that they served. Some of the medicines of the day were heavy metals and other toxic substances like arsenicals, and therapies such as purging and bleeding were commonplace. Abram was said to have shied away from these treatments, choosing ones of, quote, prevention through exercise, cleanliness, rest, and temperance in both food and drink, end quote. Andrew Still was the third of 6 children, and as the family moved from Virginia to Tennessee and then to the northern Missouri wilderness on their way to the Kansas Territory, AT acquired many skills, including hunting, where he started to learn about anatomy, and farming, and while learning medical care from his father. He was said to have discovered the role of the musculoskeletal system in health and disease when at the age of 10, he abandoned the medications of the day that were being used to treat his headaches and fashioned a sling out of a rope strung over, with a blanket strung over it to cushion his head. And he was able to lay down and put his occiput on that sling, which allowed him to get relief from his headaches. When Dr. Still began practicing medicine, no licenses were needed, and formal medical training was in its infancy. A.T. Still and his brothers learned medical care by traveling with their father and working to care for the people as he did. A.T. Still was known as a medical doctor, an MD, by the age of 20. In 1849, A.T. Still married Mary M. Vaughn and began farming 80 acres of land in Kansas. He worked to till the land with a horse-drawn plow and grew 60 acres of corn in his first year on his new farm, only to have it all wiped out in a hailstorm on the 4th of July that year. With little resources for he and his wife, he adapted and he became a teacher. Life was not easy for A.T. Still and his family on the prairie either, yet he remained inquisitive, inventive, and perseverant. He was a student of all things mechanical and invented a reaper and a mower, as well as a mechanical butter churn that cut the time to churn milk into butter down from several hours to 3 minutes. Dr. Still was elected as a representative to the Free State Legislature in 1857, remembering that at that time the nation was divided on the issue of slavery, and Dr. Still identified with John Brown in his work as an abolitionist. In 1861, Dr. Still enlisted in the Army at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and he went on to become a major in the Civil War as a member of the 21st Kansas Militia. He had 25,000 men under his command. They saw heavy fighting in Independence, Missouri in October of 1864, just before the end of the Civil War. During the next 2 years, his wife and 3 children died of meningitis and encephalitis. He did have other physicians come to his home, and they used the medicines of the day to no avail. Dr. Still was said to have said they did what they thought was best, and they wept with him on the loss of his family members. In his autobiography, Dr. Still lamented that although slavery ended in 1865, so many people had the habits of opiates, cocaine, and alcohol, quote, due to the ignorance of the schools of medicine, end quote. He went through a time of sadness about these events, and he continued to study anatomy, and he justified the disinterment of bodies of Indians to do dissections. In 1875, Dr. Still came to Kirksville, Missouri, after being rebuffed from opening a school at a college in Baldwin, Kansas. The American School of Osteopathy was established by Dr. Still, a registered physician and surgeon in Kirksville, Missouri. The college's corporate charter, approved by the Missouri legislature on May 11, 1892, granted the right to confer the Doctor of Medicine or the MD degree. However, the governing body of the school chose to award the Doctor of Osteopathy or DO degree. On October 30th, 1894, in the charter of the American School of Osteopathy, Dr. Still wrote, quote, "The object of this corporation is to establish a college of osteopathy, the design of which is to improve our present system of surgery, obstetrics, and the treatment of diseases generally, and place the same on a more rational and scientific basis." Dr. Still flung to the breeze the banner of osteopathy, and he said for 25 years it resisted storms, cyclones, blizzards of opposition. Her threads are stronger than when the banner was first woven. Her colors have grown so bright that millions now begin to see and admire and seek shelter under her protecting folds from disease and death. Dr. William Smith of Edinburgh, Scotland, joined Dr. Still to teach anatomy that year. Dr. Smith said of A.T. Still, he was, quote, "a quaint character and showed ruggedness," end quote. This gave me some insight about our fiercely independent, protective, and caring spirit and where it came from. Dr. Still died on December 12, 1917, in Kirksville, and the city shut down to honor its most famous citizen. His obituary took up the bulk of the Kirksville Daily Express that day, and he had people coming from all over the world to his funeral. He was described as bright and original and was said to be in the habit of making comments when he wanted to. You see, A.T. Still was a maverick. No, he didn't fly F-18s, and he was not a test pilot, but he was not afraid to be different, with an intent to improve medical care through osteopathic philosophy, care, and treatment. So if A.T. Still was with us today, would he recognize the profession he established 130 years ago? In 2014, I had the good fortune to present at the UC Davis Pre-Health Professions Conference, where over 4,000 pre-health profession students came to hear leaders of over 40 healthcare organizations. After the presentations, the dean at UC Davis invited all of the speakers to a dinner. And so I had the opportunity to meet and sit with Dr. Andrew Warshaw, who is the Surgeon-in-Chief Emeritus and Director of the Pancreatic Biology Laboratory at Mass General. He's now the Director of the Andrew L. Warshaw Institute for Pancreatic Cancer Research. During dinner, Dr. Warshaw asked a question. He said, "Bob, do you think if all of medicine accepted the concepts, principles, and practices of osteopathic medicine, including osteopathic manipulative treatment, do you ever see a day when we would just be one medical profession and call it medicine?" I said, based on what I've read about A.T. Still's charter in the ASO to improve surgery, obstetrics, and the treatment of diseases generally through osteopathic care, I thought it might be possible someday. But what it would take would be the osteopathic profession fulfilling its role in articulating exactly what osteopathic care and treatment is, demonstrating the value of that care, being able to teach those principles and practices and demonstrating them to all of our colleagues and the public, and having the research to support it. And I would say, after this morning's conversation, having the testing for all physicians to understand and be competent in osteopathic principles, practices, and osteopathic manipulative treatment. That, as we know, is a tall order. As I prepared for this lecture, I realized that in his time, A.T. Still would have likely said, absolutely not. He truly believed that we as DOs should be exquisite students of anatomy, physical examination, and keen listeners to the people that we have the privilege to care for. He would get aggravated when one osteopathic college started to call itself a college of osteopathic medicine. The big question is, what would he say today? A.T. Still was an innovator and believed that God, the master mechanic, put everything in the human body that was needed for its healing. How could he have known about substances like endorphins and enkephalins, immunoglobulins, and hormones carried in our bloodstream like a river to all the cells of our body? I'm led to believe, based on my review of his writings, that he would have favored us being true to the profession, studying anatomy, physical diagnosis, and osteopathic manipulative treatments, and using them to help people get relief from the effects of diseases by diagnosing and treating the root causes of those diseases in each person osteopathically. Although he shied away from using medications due to the significant side effects in his day, I believe that he would be amazed at the progress that we have made through research to better understand the intricacies of the human body, and yet would favor the less is more approach to the use of medications. Would A.T. Still recognize the profession and the graduates of its colleges as osteopathic physicians? The banner of osteopathy had truly been flung over the whole world, with, at the time of this presentation, 38 accredited colleges of osteopathic medicine with 60 campuses educating 36,500 future osteopathic physicians that make up 25% of all U.S. medical students in 34 states, with full practice rights for USDOs in all 50 states and 44 countries abroad, as well as MDDOs in Europe and non-physician osteopaths trained in accredited schools and attaining registry in the UK, New Zealand, and Australia, as well as others with some form of training in osteopathy across the globe. We have truly seen the global impact of this one man and his impact with his philosophy and thoughts about osteopathic medicine as our father of our profession. We have many DOs who have risen to the top level of leadership in several of our nation's universities, academic medical centers, medical accrediting and regulatory bodies, as well as the government, NASA, and the military. U.S. presidents in the last and current administrations each chose an osteopathic physician to be their personal physician at the White House. Have we remained true to our osteopathic principles? The tenets of osteopathic medicine express the underlying philosophy of osteopathic medicine and were approved by this House, AOA House of Delegates as policy. The body is a unit. The person is a unit of body, mind, and spirit. The body is capable of self-regulation, self-healing, and health maintenance. Structure and function are reciprocally interrelated, and rational treatment is based upon understanding of the basic principles of body unity, self-regulation, and the interrelationship of structure and function. The ACOM website states that U.S.-trained osteopathic physicians practice the entire scope of modern medicine, bringing a patient-centered, holistic, hands-on approach to diagnosing and treating illness and injury. USDOs can choose any specialty, prescribe drugs, perform surgeries, practice medicine anywhere in the United States. They bring the additional benefits of osteopathic manipulative techniques to diagnose and treat patients. We had this discussion this morning, but I would ask, have we gone from what A.T. Still saw as the secret sauce at the center of osteopathic diagnosis and treatment to now having these skills being taught as an add-on? What does the osteopathic profession have to contribute to, quote, improving care in surgery, obstetrics, and treatment, and the treatment of diseases generally through our approach to care? We must all be committed to osteopathic principles, practices, training, and leadership. If you don't practice what you preach, your words come back to you empty. And although we, as osteopathic physicians, have been recognized as valuable members of the medical community, we continue to have difficulty communicating the value of our unique approach to care to the public, except for the people that we've had the privilege to be able to take care of. They know about us. We have made headway in what I like to say is speaking outside of the room, and I'd say speaking outside of this room. It's important that, we are able to speak about the benefits of osteopathic care through our visibility campaigns, our increased emphasis on published osteopathically relevant research, and engage in working with other medical organizations and advocating to our government to claim our role in improving health care in the United States and the world. There are those outside of our profession who appreciate the contributions that osteopathic medicine continues to make to the care of our patients. Sometimes I would say more than our profession does. Tom J. Naska, President and CEO of the ACGME, told Norm Vin and I when we met with him for the first time in Puerto Rico 8 years ago. He said, "We don't want you to become us. We want you to change us." and it's up to us to work to fulfill the mission of the Charter of the ASO. 8 years ago in this House, we agreed to move forward along with ACOM to become member organizations of the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education. We began the transition to the single accreditation system of accreditation of graduate medical education institutions and programs. For those of you who are program directors, associate program directors, or faculty and residency programs throughout our nation, I say thank you. I know that change can be hard, and I appreciate the hard work of all of you to adapt. I also challenge you to be examples of what an osteopathic physician should be, as we say in our Osteopathic Pledge of Commitment. By continuing to teach your residents about the osteopathic profession, including our tenets, our osteopathic approach to diagnosis and patient care, and osteopathic manipulative treatments. But it's hard to teach something that you don't practice. In my experience, working 1 day a week, precepting primarily foreign medical graduates now in internal medicine, I find them inquisitive, engaged, and hungry to learn more about all of these issues. But it's incumbent on us as educators to have the courage and pride in our approach to be able to teach our colleagues, MDs and DOs, about the unique contributions that our approach makes to improve the care that our patients seek. I also want to thank those of you that have advocated, as you did today, for developing programs with osteopathic recognition, which helps to formalize the curricular structure for the education that you provide and creates opportunities for scholarly work to enhance our osteopathic research. There will and should be continued movement to improve medical education and practice to ultimately improve the care of our patients. The osteopathic profession must continue to work to improve all medical care through our distinctive approach to that care. We often worry about adverse effects of changes in medical education, regulation, and practice. But our quickest way to extinction is to not practice what we have learned, not to teach these skills to those that we have the privilege to mentor, and more importantly, not to offer that care to the patients that we're privileged to serve. I would say we not only have the opportunity, but the responsibility to engage with all of our colleagues in shaping the future of medical education and care in the United States and the world. We must continue to advocate for all that is good in our educational and professional contributions to preventing and treating disease, and to have the confidence to lead by example when given the opportunity. In the recently released blockbuster movie, Top Gun: Maverick, which highlights the bravery of our naval aviators and the training of the best to perform critical missions, Captain Pete Mitchell, played by Tom Cruise, is called upon to train a select group of the best pilots for a critical and dangerous mission. Although he's recognized as a great test pilot, he often follows his own instincts and situational creativity, not unlike our own Maverick, A.T. Still. He's told twice by a Vice Admiral that his kind will not be needed in the future due to the advances in technology. I believe that if our Maverick were in the flight suit of Captain Pete Mitchell today, he would respond in a similar way. The end is inevitable, Maverick. Your kind is headed for extinction. Maybe so, sir, but not today. Our mission is in our hands if we choose to embrace it. With our committed leadership, planning, wisdom, hard work, and execution, we cannot fail. Thank you, Dr. Still. Thank all of you. God bless all of you. God bless our AOA, and God bless the osteopathic profession. Thank you.